Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, guys, based on the time zones you all are coming from. So, guys, before we start with the session, can you all please give me a quick information if you all can see my screen and hear me loud and clear as well? Perfect. Thank you so much for the confirmation, everyone. So, my name is Neeraj Keria, and I've been working in this IT industry for more than 13 years now. So, the main agenda for today's session, first of all, we are going to discuss on what exactly is a table in Excel. Then we are going to discuss all the tables here, the features. Then we are going to discuss on how we can prepare table data, how we can create a pivot table, and how we can apply filters, how we can change fields, how we can work with the table details, how we can work with sorting, value field settings, grouping, adding multiple fields, formatting the pivot table, and then creating a pivot chart for the pivot table itself. So that is what we are going to discuss as a part of our discussion in today's session. So let's get started with the discussion on the pivot tables. We know that Excel provides several excellent features, and one among them is the pivot tables. So Excel pivot tables are widely used all over the world by people belonging to various backgrounds such as information technology, accounting, management, etc. Now, in the Excel pivot table tutorial that for which we have joined today, so we will be learning that all things that we need to know about pivot tables and how we can visualize the same using the pivot charts. So if you talk about a pivot table in Excel, so pivot table in Excel is basically a statistical table that condenses data of those tables that have extensive information. That is exactly what we mean by pivot table here. So basically the summary can be based on any field such as sales, averages, sums, etc. that a pivot table represents in a simpler and intelligent manner. So if you talk about its features, then there are multiple features available here. So first of all, it allows us to display the exact data that we want to analyze. The data can be viewed from various angles. We can focus on any section of data according to our requirements. We can make data comparison very easy. Pivot tables can detect different patterns, relationships, data trends, etc. And then it allows us to create instant data. And then using this, we can create accurate reports as well. So now we are aware of what Excel pivot tables are. So let's move on to see how we can actually create them. So before we start working on this, we have to ensure that we have to jot down the data for which we are creating the pivot tables in Excel. Now, in order to create a table for this purpose, we have to follow these pointers. First of all, data must be arranged into rows and columns. The first row should have a short and unique heading for every column, and columns should hold only a single type of data. There should not be multiple, like you can see, there should not be strings, somewhere numbers, somewhere float values. There should be a single type of value in each and every row of the current column, right? And the rows should contain data for a single recording, and no blank rows should be present, and no column should be completely blank. And then we have to ensure that we are going to keep the table separate from each other, from the other data in the sheet, by giving at least one row and column space between the table and the other data that we want to work with. So we can refer to this type of data here, like we have data, we have date, order ID, then we have date, then we have name, item, city, the quantity ordered, and the amount paid. So as you can see here, we have a table that holds information regarding the sales of fruit in different cities by various individuals along with its amount. Now, there are no empty rows or columns in this table, and the first row has unique names for every column. That is, we have order ID, date, name, etc. So the columns contain the same type of data, that is IDs, dates, names, etc. that you want to work with, right? So let's do one thing. Let's create the sample data by going to our Excel sheet so that we can see how exactly it works. So now here we can define something as order ID. Order ID itself. Here we can define as date. Here we can have a name of the product. Here we can have, suppose, city. Then we have quantity. And then we are going to work with amount. Now here we can have an order ID. Suppose here we can have 1, 2, 3. So let's say we just 10 entries so far. And here we can have date. Suppose here we have 01, 01, and again this was, suppose, let's say 2020. And same way here we can have, suppose, different dates available here. Suppose here we have 02, 01, 2020. We can simply drag it towards the end. For 10 entries, the city name can be, suppose, anything. The city name can, now here we have name of the people who have bought. Suppose, for example, here we have Ivan, we have, suppose, Taurus, we have Roger, we can have Rafa, we have Elena, we have John, we can have Brad, Roger again, then we can have Iker, and then we have Chris. Suppose we can have any random entries here, and suppose here it can be New York, it can be Washington, here next is can be, suppose, Texas, it can be New York again, here it can be, suppose, Chicago, John can be from, suppose, Texas again, Brad can be from Washington, Roger is from Texas again, Iker, let's say here Iker is from New York, and then Chris is also, for suppose, from Washington. And then in terms of quantity order, here it can be anything. For example, here we have 23, 25, 28, 27, 24, 21, 26, 20, 32, and 45, and 29. It can be any random value here. And then we can have different amounts paid here. Suppose the amount can be, suppose, 250. Here we can have 200. Here we can have 530, 470, 980. Suppose 540 here. Again, 660. Here can be 400. It can be 321. Suppose here can be, suppose, 900 itself, and here can be 580. Here can be any random value. So now we have a sample data. Now we can see here we have different types of values, right? So we have a consistent data set having the same type of values with having its own unique value, and no data set is currently blank, correct? As we can see here. So here we have order. Now here we have the sample table available with us, correct? Now next, now here we can see here we have a consistent data. So here we don't have different data formats here to work with, correct? And this is how we can, now this should be the format, because again, if we have any inconsistencies, in case we have some alpha, suppose here we have data in different formats, and we won't be able to work on the pivot tables here. All right. So this is what, like, a simple prerequisite. So now if you want to work on the pivot tables here, so what we can do now next is we can simply select the entire column on which we want to create the pivot table, right? So what we can do, so here we can select the entire data set here, and then we can go to the section called as tables. So here we can select all the tables here, and then we have to go to section called as tables. And now in case table is currently not active here for us, then we can simply trigger here, we can simply invoke that entire table part here, correct? And then we can get started. All right. So here we can choose the table here. Here we have pivot table. So now here we have to define the table property that we want to work with. Here we have to select a table or a table range here. All right. So once we have defined, now once this box has been opened up, sorry, here we can see here we have the select table or range here. Correct. So here we have the sheet one that we have created, and this is a sheet one. That means whatever data we have, this is going to select all the range. If you want to customize it, we can customize it. And then if you want to create a pivot table report to be placed, suppose if you want this to be define in the existing worksheet, or we want to create a new worksheet. So here we can define it. All right. So if we select a new worksheet, then a new worksheet is going to be opened up containing the pivot table. And if you select the existing worksheet, then again we'll be able to select the cell where exactly we want to place our pivot chart. Now, once we are done, we can simply click on OK. And as you can see, a new sheet has been opened up. And here we can see the entire pivot table fields pane open towards the right of the entire Excel window here. So here we can see, here we have order ID, date, name, city, quantity, amount. Now, this pane provides four areas, like we have filters, columns, rows, and values. As you can see here, we have four parameters here: filters, columns, rows, and values. So filters allow us to filter out data based on some criteria. Columns will represent the fields that you want to place in the columns. Rows will represent the fields that you want to place in the rows. And values field can be used only for figures from the table here. Now, all the fields present in a table will be represented as a list in the pivot table fields pane. Now, to add any fields to the area, just drag and drop it as per the requirement. All right. So for example, say here we want to work on name. So here we have what? Here we have the order ID, date, name. Suppose name is something that we can define as a part of rows. So here we can choose name, and suppose here we can place it as a part of rows here. As you can see here, this has been placed. Now we want to add city. Suppose city is something that we want to add as a filter. So here we can simply drag city and place them in filters. Same way, if we want to work on items, item as in what is the, suppose I say here, we may have details such as what exactly they have entered. So I think we missed out on the item here, right? So I think we didn't add the type of product added there. So let's do one thing. Let's create one more entry here. Let's insert one more column. Insert, not here. To list what exactly they have ordered. I think we have missed out on that part. So here we can define item. Suppose they have item added multiple, you can say ordered multiple fruits. For example, suppose here they have ordered orange, banana. Suppose they have ordered kiwi. Here they have ordered mangoes, pineapple, mango again, banana here. So we can maintain the same consistent format to avoid any confusion. And then here we can define, suppose apple, apple, and orange again. So now let's create a pivot table by using this one. So now again, let's do one thing. Let's close the sheet. We can delete this for now. Let's create a fresh one. So again, we can select the entire column here. We can click on insert, pivot table. We can define the parameters. Let's create this in a new sheet. Click on OK. Now we have these entries with us. Now let's suppose here we want to work on name. So name is something that we can define as a row. Let's say we want to add cities as a filter, right? So here we can simply select city, and then we can add suppose as filter here. We can define for columns, we can define suppose we want it to be for any item. So here we can drag and drop item in the columns list here if we want. And then in terms of values, I suppose here we want to add the amount. So here we can define amount, and then we can simply choose what exactly is the amount that we want to enter here one by one. All right, so here we can define sum of amount has been entered as a value altogether. So now if we want to, now as you can see, we have added filters for cities, right? So here if you want to see the filter reports for Chicago, for New York, so here we can simply click on OK. And now what exactly has been the performance of New York? That means from New York we have two customers, Ika and Ivan. And again, Ika ordered apples and Ivan ordered oranges. And what exactly has been their order value? We can see it. So that's how, and again, as you can see here, we have multiple filters, right? So if you want to see the list of orders that we may have received, suppose from Washington. So here again, we can choose Washington. Now you can see we have three customers from Washington, Brad, Chris, and Tosh, because, and again, in terms of columns, we define the items, correct? So what Brad has ordered, what Chris has ordered, what Tosh has ordered here, we can simply see the actual order quantity and then the order value as well. And now, if you want to add different values here, if you want to see different values in terms of the value, currently we are seeing the amount, correct? Currently, we are seeing the amount of, or we can say the actual order value here, correct? Let's say if you want to see the quantity ordered, so here we can remove amount, we can uncheck amount here, and here we can add quantity, correct? As you can see here, now we are not seeing the order value. We are seeing the quantity ordered by these different customers, and that too based on the item as what we're seeing here from the column name here, correct? Let's say we want to filter this out not from item here. Suppose here we can uncheck item. Let's say we want to filter them out based on the order date. That means when exactly they have orders. So you can simply drag and drop date. So again, Toss ordered on 25th and Chris ordered on 26th here. So again, how much of orders you have received? Again, this is being visualized on top of the entire report, correct? So you can see we can choose the pointers here depending upon the requirement. We can choose them accordingly. Suppose let's say here we can restore back to our item list here. An item is something that we can add in terms of columns. And same way in terms of, now let's suppose we don't want to see quantity, we want to see amount, we can add the amount as well. Right? So we can see how we can change the fields, how we can apply filters. So let's say in case you want to see the same statistic for a particular city, again, we can simply filter them out based on the cities altogether. For example, now we want to combine the reports for New York and Washington together. So here we can combine these two cities. Click on OK. Now we can see the report for both the cities together. How many customers and what exactly has been the order value that we are going to find out here. So this is a good way. Suppose say here we want to create a pivot table where we want to analyze. Suppose we have an e-commerce store data. Now we want to analyze it. Okay, how many orders we have received for a specific category. Then we can create a pivot table from that tabular data in Excel or CSV format. And then we can simply start defining the filters, or we can define our own logic to create a customized view out of it. We can easily do that. So in these examples, we have seen the total amount received by selling fruits in New York City and in New York and Washington as well. So in case you want to see the details of each statistic displayed in a power table, simply double click on the desired statistic and then we will be able to see the detailed report that is going to be generated here. Now we can also work on sorting the entire data set as well. Now currently we have seen how we can filter out the data sets. Now we want to sort them out. So here we can see if we want to sort out the table in ascending or descending order, we can do it as follows. So basically here we can create the entire pivot table and then right click on the amount. So for example, here we have amount here, right? So here we have all the filters available here. So now here we want to filter the entire grand total, or we can see the amount here, right? So here if we want to sort the current list here, so here we can simply sort the entire list as and when required. And then we can choose between the largest and smallest and smallest to largest option available so that we can simply easily sort it as per the requirement here. Right, so here we can simply right click on this column here and we can see if we want to sort from if we want to sort alphabetically or we want to apply more sorting options, and we can also do that. For example, here we can apply for more sorting options ascending by A to Z or by Z to A depending upon the format. And then we have value field settings here. Here we have the values that in which we had defined sum of amount. So as we have seen in the current example, Excel shows the grand total. As you can see, what we're getting, we are seeing a grand total, right? So this grand total by summing up the amount for every item. Now, in case we want to change this in order to see other figures such as the average, count of items, product, etc., we can simply right click on any of the sum of amount values and then select the value from the field settings option here. For example, here we have this amount here, right? So here we can simply right click here. And then if we want to define it, here we can define value field settings, correct? And now we can simply define, okay, we want to simply define the sum, the count, or the average that you want to see as a report. For example, we want to see the average here, we can change this to average. We want to see the maximum value ordered here, the minimum value, or for per product, we can see the entire reports here. Right, for example, here we want to see the average. So here we can click on average. Suppose if there was average, suppose if Chris had ordered multiple things, and then same thing would have been defined as an average here. all right, as a part of the pivot table that we have defined. We can change any value here. For example, we want to see the count here. We can simply see the count. That means Chris has ordered, no, everyone has ordered just for once, correct? Let's say if you go back to our sheet, now we can see here, we have Roger, right? So Roger ordered 2 times, right? So, and Roger ordered what? Roger ordered kiwi and apple, right? So now let's say we want to filter this list. So here we have filter list here. So let's say here we want to see the list for Texas. Here we can choose Texas, and here we can see Roger ordered apple as well, and Roger also ordered kiwi as well, right? So here we are seeing the count, and now that means we can see the total count returned for any of the orders that we have received. All right, that's how the concept for the pivot tables work here in terms of providing multiple value field settings. Now, next we have grouping. So Excel allows us to group similar data while creating a pivot table. Now, in order to group some data, simply select the piece of data and then right click on it from a list. So here we can click on group by option. Now we can take a look at the image. We can simply take a look at this current table that we are currently working on, correct? So if you want to group if you want to create multiple groups here, so here we can define the groups as well, and then we can combine multiple groups together. We can simply do that. All right, so currently we define that in terms of rows, we define rows name here. So suppose if we don't want to focus on names here, so suppose here we want to define it for items. So item is what we want to define here, and suppose in terms of names, we can define for rows. Now, suppose if we want to create a group of these 2 elements here, suppose here we want to create a group of apple and kiwi. We can simply right click here, and here we can define group. So we have group 1, and then we have group 2 for any of the other fields that we want to work on. So in case you want to see the individual objects present in that group, we can simply expand the group here. Currently group has automatically been expanded here, correct? So we can simply expand, and then we can see what exactly, and again, if you want to simply rename this, again here we can simply rename, and then we can define whatever we want to call it as a part of multiple groupings defined. So we had discussed till grouping. So now if we want, now Excel also allows us to add multiple fields to each area present in the pivot table fields window. So all we have to do is simply drag and drop the desired field in the respective area. For example, let's say we want to see what quantity of items are sold in each city. Simply drag the item and quantity field to the row area and the city field to the column area. And when we do this, the pivot table generated will be having multiple fields allowed in the same table itself. So for example, suppose here we want to see the item here, right? So here we can simply define the item. And now suppose let's say here we want to see the details of the, now in terms of column, we want to keep it as name itself. Now in terms of rows, we want to add multiple, here if you want to add the item and quantity. So for here we can define item, and let's do one thing. Let's remove item 2, and let's say here we add quantity. So here we can add quantity, and not in terms of the values here. We want to add quantity in the item section. So here we can add quantity. Now we can see here, now we have 2 different values defined here. Suppose here we can see here, we are seeing the total values for apple, total values for kiwi, and total values for mango. That has been ordered in Texas. Suppose let's say here, if we go back to the sheet here, we can see in terms of the Texas cities. So in terms of Texas, we have orders. Suppose in terms of apple, there have been 32 orders in total in the city. Suppose now we want to see the details here in total, then we can simply define the entire sheet, and this is going to get updated automatically. That's how it is going to work. All right. So similarly, we can add multiple fields to the column as well as the values area. And in the next example, we are going to discuss how we can add another amount field to the values area. Now to do this, we have to simply drag and drop the amount field for the second time in the values area. So here we can define amount, and we can simply drag and drop amount in the columns area here. Not just column here, we have to add this in the values. So now we can see here we have the count of amount, and then you can see we have sum of amount, correct? So here we have two different columns here. We have count of amount, and then we have sum of amount in terms of columns being shown. So we can say columns being showcased here. So you can see how exactly we are seeing the entire reports here being generated, and we can have a better insight of what exactly has the count and sum of the count available here. So here we can see that the sum of amount here. Now we want to see the sum of amount, this quantity values as not as the rows here. Suppose here we want to define the values in terms of columns. So here we can define the columns as well. So here we can remove names. Suppose let's say here we want to remove the section for names. So here we can simply remove this field from the values, as opposed if you want to see the count and again the sum of amount as the count here, then we can also do that as per the requirement. So here you can see here we have the total sum of amount, the total count, and the total sum of amount for different values being ordered here, and that is again segregated based on different names. Now if you want to work on formatting the pivot table, so here we can click on the design bar. So what we have here, we have design on the top, correct? So we can simply change the layout here. That means if you want to make use of any specific color schemes, we can change the color scheme here. If you want, we can look for more color schemes are available that we can go for, depending upon how exactly we want to customize it, which matches our requirement, as you can see here. All right. Now, if you want to work on creating a pivot chart for the pivot tables, then pivot tables can be used to create frequency distribution tables very easily, which can be represented using pivot charts. So in this case, let's say we want to create a pivot chart for the amount field between lower and upper range. So for that, we can follow the complete process here. Now, if we want to create a pivot chart for the pivot tables, then we know that pivot tables can be used to create frequency distribution tables very easily, which can be represented by using pivot charts. So in case we want to create a pivot chart for the amount field between the lower and upper range, we can do that. So for example, we can here what we have. Suppose if you want to drag the amount field to the row area, suppose currently we can remove all the fields here. Let's do one thing. Let's choose this one. Let's remove value. Let's remove the field here. Let's remove this one as well. Let's simply clear them out. Let's clear them out. Now, let's say here we want to add amount. So here we can choose amount. And let's suppose here we add amount in terms of rows. And we want to add amount as a part of count as well, correct? So again, we can drag and drop amount in the value section here. Currently, we are seeing the amount as a sum of amount. Suppose here we want to change this suppose to something else. So here we can go to value field settings here. We want to see the count of amount. So here we can simply count as well, correct, for different amount being paid here. So now we want to see the range. Now currently we want to simply create a range, correct? So if you want to create the entire grouping based on the price range, then we can define the entire grouping as well. For example, suppose here we can simply choose the entire element, and then we can simply create a range as per the requirement. For example, suppose if we want to create a range for 200 to 400. So here we can define 200 to 400, depending upon the value that we can simply choose here. And then we can define, okay, we want this to start at, or we want to simply end at a specific range. We can also define it as per the requirement. Now, next, as a part of a continuation, let's see how we can create a pivot chart as well, right? So basically here we have the option. Now here we can simply select the element here, and then we can simply go to the home section here, and here we'll be having the option of creating a pivot chart from the current table that we have created. Now we also have the options available for Power Pivot as well. So here we can define the measures. Here we can simply manage all the tables that we had defined as a Power Pivot table. And then we can simply start analyzing it as well by using the default analyzer available here. So here we have seen how we can work with the pivot chart. So let's suppose here we want to create a pivot chart out of it. So we can simply click on this option which says pivot chart. And then we will be able to choose what kind of chart we want to use here, whether we want to go for a column, we want to create a pie chart. Now the type of visualization that we want to work here, so that depends upon That depends upon the type of data we have the access to, correct? So here we can choose the graph type. Suppose here we want to create a column. Here we can choose column. We can choose a simple bar graph. If we want, we can simply choose the line graph as well. For example, here we have columns. So here we can click on OK. And then as you can see here, now we have the entire graph automatically given to us as a part of pivot chart. And then suppose here we want to change the amount here. Suppose here we have count of amount, correct? So here if we want to work on it, so here we can define count of amount. If we want to change, suppose this to some other value fields, suppose here we want to change the sum. We can change to sum, and I can see here, as soon as we change any value, that is going to automatically reflect the graph that we have currently created. All right. We can change, we can see the look in terms of amount as well. We can apply all the filters if we want. We can change any value as per the requirement. And we can also modify this at any point of time required. Thank you so much for joining and have a great day ahead. Take care. Bye-bye.